The metal of the body is of good quality. Thanks to this, rust, even in places where the paint is chipped, appears extremely rarely. But the paint cannot boast of such quality. As a result, scratches and chips appeared quickly enough. As operating experience has shown, all power units are very reliable, but minor shortcomings in them have nevertheless been identified. Most often, the owners of the 1.4 engine of the first years of production cause dissatisfaction. Its disadvantages include incorrect operation in severe frosts, noisy operation, floating revolutions. For this reason, the check engine indicator light up on the console. Diesel engines are very sensitive to fuel quality. As a result, problems with the fuel system can begin after 100,000 km. If you refuel with low-quality diesel fuel, then as a rule you need to replace the catalyst, injectors and high-pressure fuel pump, and this is not a cheap pleasure. Almost on all engines closer to 100,000 km, an oil leak appears through the cylinder head gasket. Often, when starting the engine in wet weather, the ignition coils burn out. A fairly common occurrence is the failure of a standard battery. Spark plugs, subject to the use of high-quality fuel, on average serve 40,000 km. One of the main advantages of all power units is their efficiency. For example, the most powerful 1.6 engine in urban mode consumes 7–8 liters per 100 km. Diesel versions boast a consumption of 5–6 liters per 100 in the city and 4–4.5 liters on the highway. Citroen Picasso can be equipped with one of two gearboxes, a 5-speed manual or a robotic transmission with electric clutch engagement and disengagement. On the reliability and technical characteristics of the robotic box, the opinions of the owners differ greatly. Here, as they say, whoever is lucky, but still, most of the reviews are negative. Many owners complain about the inconvenience of operating the transmission, that is, the car constantly twitches while shifting gears. In addition, there are many complaints about its reliability. The most common problems are failure of the clutch actuator and the clutch itself. According to statistics, on average, the robot serves 80–100,000 km, and then, if the previous owner correctly and carefully exploits the box. Transmission repair costs $1,000–1,300 USD. As for the manual box, it is reliable. Its only drawback is the leakage of the axle shaft seals. The manufacturer claims that their transmissions are not serviceable, but despite this, they need to change the oil at least once every 60,000 km, and in the robot a little more often, 40–50,000 km. This procedure significantly increases the resource of the box. The suspension of the car is quite rigid, which has a positive effect not only on the handling of the car, but also on its reliability, given the rather large ground clearance, 18.5 cm, and body height, 152 cm. Traditionally for this brand, an independent McPherson suspension is installed in front and a semi-independent beam in the back. A big plus of the suspension is that most of its elements are changed individually and not as an assembly, which significantly reduces the cost of repairs. Based on operating experience, we can safely say that the chassis is not a weak point of the car, but it still has weak points. Most often, bushings and stabilizer struts fail every 30–50,000 km. On a run of 70–80 km, replacement of ball bearings and wheel bearings will be required. Closer to 100,000 km, silent blocks, thrust bearings and front shock absorbers will have to be replaced. The rear suspension is considered not to be killed and periodically requires the replacement of rubber bands and shock absorbers on average every 150,000 km. The steering of the Citroen C3 Picasso is quite reliable and with careful operation will last 130–150,000 km, after which the rack bushings will need to be replaced. Steering tips nursed for 50–70,000 km, thrust 90–110,000 km. The brake system is very reliable. The service life of the front pads is up to 50,000 km, the rear pads are up to 80,000 km of run. Thanks to the large glazing area, the interior of the Citroen C3 Picasso is very bright, but you need to get used to its interior. As for the quality of finishing materials, it is at a high level. The same can be said about the build quality and sound insulation. The main advantage of the cabin is the presence of adjustments in the second row of seats, which significantly adds comfort to passengers and, if necessary, increases the trunk volume to 500 liters. Among the shortcomings of the cabin, one can single out frequent failures of electrical equipment, for example, incorrect operation of power windows and windshield brushes, failure of the head unit. If you are the owner of this car model, please describe the problems that you had to face during the operation of the car. Perhaps it is your review that will help readers of our site when choosing a car.